doing in front of the Eagles. First, I'd like to start with this scripture. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Now, this is a scripture that we commonly reference that can be found in Philippians 4:16. And while we often use it to encourage our friends or encourage ourselves, how many of us truly believe it? I mean, sure, anyone can read a scripture, but do you personally believe that God can use you to accomplish his purposes? Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the life of Israeli Pilot Esther Arditi. And she's a wonderful example of how God can use anyone for his purposes, no matter your age, your physical stature, or your past life experiences. At a very young age, Esther Arditi experienced tragedy. She was a Jew who was born near the end of World War II, and she unfortunately had to witness the murder of both her mother and her brother before her eyes by the Nazis. Thankfully, she was able to escape and get to her older brother who lived nearby, and she stayed with him for quite a while. At the age of 11, she had something interesting happen. She felt this need to go to Israel. Now, I don't know why she felt this need, but I personally like to believe that it was God leading her to do so. And she was so determined, she broke open her piggy bank and tried to get on a boat to Israel, but was unsuccessful and had to be turned around. It would be another 5 years before she'd be able to attempt this again, and she was successful. And what do you think the first thing she did when she got to Israel? She signed up for the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. Now, this was quite amazing considering not only was she 16 years old, which was younger than most people that would sign up, but she was also very small in stature. Now, something I'd like you to keep in mind is Esther Arditi was 5 foot tall, if you were being generous, and about 85 pounds. Now look at me, I am about 5'4" and about 110 pounds. So Esther was significantly smaller than me, but I'd like you to keep that factor in mind. Unlike most women during this time who was usually put behind a desk, she was determined to join the armed forces, and she trained in medical combat. 1 week after receiving her training, she got a call. There was a plane that was flying near her base that had been struck by lightning. She and others were called to the field to try and help, but there was a lot of rain and mud and their vehicles got stuck. Thankfully, they were eventually able to meet there, but when they got there, they were faced with yet another danger. Not only was the plane on fire, but the plane had been full of ammunition, and which was firing off to do the fire. And so here you are, plane on fire, mere moments from exploding, bullets whizzing through the air, and what do you think Esther did? Did she stop and think? No. She dashed towards the plane, everyone else calling at her to stop. She knew that she had to save whoever was in that plane. She didn't let rain, fear, or the thought of, I don't know if I can do this, stop her. When she got to the plane, she found the man who she thought was the pilot half hung out of the plane. She was able to manage to grab him and pull him out of the plane by herself, and right before he lost consciousness, he told her, go get the pilot. This man was actually the navigator of the plane. So she went back to the plane, on fire, bullets whizzing through the air, and she managed to get not only this man, but his seat out of the plane because he had lost consciousness in it and she couldn't get him unstrapped. This was a miracle. Not only because she just saved 2 men from a burning plane, but both men were full-grown men. The one in the seat was about 200 pounds. And plane chairs are heavy, okay? So let's just say that's another 100 pounds. This woman, who was smaller than me, managed to lift 300 pounds and get them out of the burning plane and save them. If that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. God was able to use her. In fact, Esther herself said, from that moment forward, I believed that God existed. She went on to do amazing things. After she left the IDF, she gave tours around Israel, she became a wife and a mother, and she served in both the 6-Day War and the Yom Kippur War, where she became known as the White Angel in White because of her kind and loving care, her precision, and the white coat that she wore. She was later received the Medal of Distinguished Services, which is one of the highest medals that can be bestowed by the IDF. She was the first and only woman to receive this honor. Esther Arditi is a wonderful example of how, no matter how old you are, what your life experience has been, or your physical stature, God can use you to accomplish his purposes. So the next time you think of Philippians 4:16, ask yourself, do I truly believe this? Can God use me to accomplish his purposes? And the amazing thing is that he can, because it's not through his strength our strength that he's doing it, but it's through his strength. Thank you.